Okay then, so supporting and potting. Let's deal with potting first. How do you know when your Swiss cheese plant needs repotting? When the plant is young, it's very beneficial to repot every spring. It's early in the season that's key because it encourages new growth and it freshens up the soil. With more established plants, you may notice thick aerial roots growing from the stem. And look, here's one big one just here. It's just native of the plant. Don't worry. You're doing the right thing. They're supposed to do that. Sometimes I retrain these back into the pot itself. It can make it a bit difficult repotting when you've got plenty of roots, but it is a really important thing to do for the plant. Now, these will benefit from some support to cling on to, because as the plant grows, it flops and whatever, and this is where moss poles come in. Swiss cheese plants are semi-epiphytes, which means they can live both independently and also leaning on and supporting other plants too as they climb up trees or they climb along the forest floor. When you're repotting plants, it's always good to use very high quality peat-free compost. There we go, look at that, perfect for the new roots to grow into. And if you're repotting, it's always best to repot just 1 or 2 sizes bigger than the container that the plant is currently growing in. Okay, well, I'll do this one just over here. I've chosen this pot. I've had this cheese plant for a while. There we go. Take the old pot cover and move that out the way. And I'm going to pot it straight in to this earthenware container that's got good drainage on the inside. So, the secret is when you start repotting any plant, is occasionally they can look a little bit tired. As you can see, this one here has been grown in an area where there isn't much light. As you can see, they're growing long, thin leaves to try and get to the light. So I've rescued this plant and I'm going to repot it and bring it back to normal. As you can see, someone here has also tied the two of them together to try and hold them. So I think this plant needs a complete makeover. The first thing I'm going to do is just clear away any old debris that's at the bottom of the container, and I'd also clear away any old leaves that you've got. That can go straight into the compost heap. I then want to look at the quality of the roots inside, so I'm going to lay the plant gently down on the side. And with your hands at the bottom, gently squeeze out the container. Try not to damage any roots, especially any of these that have come through the bottom of the pot. There we are. Take a look at that. There's an old cane there. Take a moment, just have a little sort through. You don't have to rush things. Repotting is very therapeutic and very enjoyable. So just take an examination of the plant. Look, here's one of the big aerial roots. That's interesting. That's come from there, that's fed back into the pot itself and now has rooted in, and what it does is it anchors the plant as well, so it's a little bit more supportive. Now I'm going to repot this, not into a massive container, because you don't want to put all the energy into the plant's root systems, and sometimes if you've got a big container or a small root system, it's very difficult to gauge the amount of water that's in there. You overwater or underwater, so just one size big. I'm going to put it in this ornamental pot here. As you can see, it's not hugely different. There's enough additional space in there, but I also like to use an earthenware pot, certainly with big house plants. You know, if you've got big house plants, they're always toppling over. Choosing good, heavy base pots holds them into position so much better. The other secret is making sure that there's always a good drainage hole. Sometimes when you get pot covers, they're solid at the bottom, which is great because they don't leak water out onto your dining room table or windowsill where there are. But you'd be better off to get an ornamental container with a hole in the bottom and then sit it on a saucer of gravel. The gravel will give a little bit of height, so if you overwater, the water will just go in and be collected in the container itself, in and amongst the gravel. So a good clear drainage hole. Then the compost. Peat-free houseplant compost. Put a good layer in at the base and just mix it around so if there's any large clumps. I normally then use the container to give me a gauge, so I'm not having to put the plant in going, oh, there's not enough, then take it back out again. You can use the pot that it was in to get a feeling of how much soil is right. And I think just a little bit more, and I'm about right on that. There we go. Then carefully lifting up the plant, supporting the top, but again supporting the bottom as well. Some plants are easier to do than others. This is a bit of a handful. Lower the plant into position. You don't want it to be too deep, okay? You don't want it to be too deep. There we are. It's patting me on the head. You don't want it to be too deep, but you want it to be roughly the level it was in the pot before. So don't mound soil up above the crown. Now, here's the difficult bit. Gently start to fill the compost around the outside. Now, as you're potting it in, some of the other aerial roots, train those back into the container. You'll find that they'll anchor the plant a little bit better, and of course they can also help gain water and take it, because some of these aerial roots are a little bit higher in the plant, so they can draw water straight to that part without having to go all the way through the system. And that's the magic of these plants. And of course, houseplant compost contains about 3 months of food, so you're also putting quite a bit of fertiliser just when the plant needs it in spring to generate new growth. So there you have it. The plant is all repotted. I'm just going to turn it to face you here, but as you can see, it's hanging about all over the place. Your cheese plant may be in a much better condition than this one here that I've taken from somebody to rescue, but I am going to bring this back to life, and repotting it is going to concentrate on the roots and enable the plant to anchor itself. But it's the support. If I can hold this branch up here, maybe this one over here, the plant then starts to look good already, and it gives it a good framework to grow on and upwards.